you check the children? Show a little massive
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Greetings, Fright fans. Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Jaime Fuego.
I'm Cecil Laird.
And we are returning for a honestly long overdue review. I was lagging behind, but even the fact that we didn't get it over here in the United States until like a year, maybe close to 2 years after it debuted in the UK, we're finally talking about Outcast Season 2, a comic book that has impressed me with some of the reading I've done, even, after checking out the first season. But man, that first season on Cinemax, it was maybe in a lot of ways the wrong network for this particular show, because the show was incredibly directed, very impressive acting and writing and stuff, and we waited forever to get season 2, and then it got canceled, and now we finally got around to watching season 2. I finally caught up. Yay.
Exactly. Yeah, no, me too. And I've been in on the comic since the very beginning. Also a comic created by Robert Kirkman, same guy that created The Walking Dead.
It's about to end, you said?
Yeah, it's 3 issues from the end of the series.
Damn.
So it's going strong right now, and I recently caught up with the back half of the series, and so it's all fresh in my mind, and it's really good. But I'm ready for it to be over as well at this point. Walking Dead ended, and I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm like ready to pare down the amount of comics I'm collecting. So if you end them for me, more power to me. Thank you. But yeah, this is a good comic, and it made for a really good first season. We all really liked it, and yeah, it just took us forever to finally get around to watching it, and the only way we could was by subscribing to Cinemax through Amazon.
Yeah, it's never even been second season has not even been released on DVD in any region anywhere.
Nope. And so we finally watched it, and we're going to talk about it again. It's this review probably won't do very well because it's going to be hard for most of you guys to watch it.
Sign up for the 7-day trial.
That's what we did.
Binge it, and then just be done with it.
7-day Cinemax trial through Amazon.
There's probably some other Skinemax stuff you may like on there. I don't know. They've been trying to change.
Are they Skinemax anymore?
They've been trying to change their image for a while. Just like even Showtime and all these other like HBO competitors have tried to branch out.
So I will say that overall, this was a really good season, but I still don't think I liked it quite as much as season 1.
No.
It felt a bit less focused, I should say, but it could also be because the main two protagonists that kind of worked together through most of season 1 had splintered apart, and so we were following 2 separate stories, and even sometimes 3 or 4, because you'd also follow Kyle's girlfriend in one section, and then Kyle's ex-wife in another section, and like it's or sister rather,
yes,
and then ex-wife, and so there were so many different stories to be following that I just it wasn't quite as, like I said, focused, and thus not quite as enjoyable for me.
Yeah, and that's where I will totally piggyback on what he just said, because they overstuffed the turkey in this season. As
convoluted as I said it.
Yeah, no, they totally overstuffed the turkey in this season, man. They had too many balls in the air. I'm glad that they developed characters like the sheriff and his wife, and Kyle's sister's daughter going through the trauma of her finding her mother having murdered her father, and I mean, it was cool how they just really followed through with that and made it intriguing. But I feel like our main characters kind of took a step back and weren't as involved because they were really adamant about doing all of these other things. It is nice to see the return of 2 characters from single episodes in the first season, the kid and also the guy who murdered his partner's wife, and that whole storyline continues a little bit, which is cool. So I don't know, they built the world and expanded it in an interesting fashion, but I felt like it was just between them, like they have 3 factions in this instead of 2. There's like infighting on each side and all this different stuff, and so it was just a bit much at the end of it. But I still am really intrigued, and they left it on a cliffhanger, unfortunately. And so yeah, I wish they could have continued on. Who knows? Hannibal may come back 5 years later if this gets on like Netflix or some more broad streaming service eventually.
I have a feeling this one's dead in the water.
That sucks, but it was one that I enjoyed, and I wish we could have seen more of. So like you said, not as good as the first season. I felt like that had a more focused, intimate conflict that was a lot more vicious and a lot more personal. This time, not so much. There's just too much else going on. So
yeah. So story-wise, go ahead, Fuego. Why don't you jump in with the overall?
Yeah, so essentially at the beginning of the second season, we are dealing with all of the aftermath of the fact that Kyle's sister was possessed by one of these, I guess you can't even really call them demons. There's something kind of a little bit different, at least as far as what the show alludes to them being at times.
Yeah, they're supposed to be demons.
Yeah, Anyway, though, so it's all of the aftermath of the fact that not only did that transpire, she killed her husband, daughter found out about it, but Kyle's daughter also has that same little ability as him, so it is passed along through bloodline, through family, and she's kind of getting used to her new power. Nice camaraderie with her and the father. They're very cute together. But the mother gets right back in the picture very quickly, and yet we still have the fallout from Preacher and Kyle and them like kind of pursuing things a little bit differently. The Reverend gets involved with this church of people who used to be possessed at one particular time, and now they are not, and they're like out in the woods doing something different. And then we've also got Brent Spiner's character and this kind of co-Asian doctor buddy of his who they're working together, but you can tell that there is some contention and some rivalry of sorts a little bit. So you basically have the townspeople who are still trying to figure everything out, including the sheriff, who there's some stuff that goes down with him. His wife gets more involved and is aware of the fact that her best friend is demon possessed, and so there's a lot going on, as you guys can tell, but it is boiling to a conflict eventually of these people who used to be possessed with whoever takes control of this demonic possessed group of people, and then also you've got eventually the townspeople who know what's going on that want to go against them. So 3 different factions, plus Kyle's family trying to figure their shit out, plus his sister dealing with being possessed and all the PTSD from that. So there's a lot in 10 episodes that they're trying to do here. I still found it compelling, but as you said, they kind of jump around a little bit too much to develop any of those stories as great as they could have, and they jump forward with certain things, just people coming back together and everything just happening very smoothly after all the attrition in the first season. So I don't know, the plot moves very quickly in this because there's a lot to digest.
Yeah, they kind of overstuffed the turkey a bit on this one.
Yep,
so
definitely.
I felt the same way. I think I already touched on my thoughts on the story. Yeah, it just felt a little too convoluted. I did like the progression of most of the stories. And I even liked some of the new characters that we got, way more time with than I thought we would. But ultimately, it just felt a little too all over the place for me to really, really focus in and care what happened next. It didn't happen like it did in the first season, which, hey, maybe that's why it didn't get renewed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. The first season was ordered before the comic had even reached publication. So that's how much anticipation there was for that first season. They probably just thought it was going to be a bigger thing than it ended up becoming, regrettably.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think the network had something to do with that.
It had to have, man. I mean, people argue the same for Ash vs. Evil Dead on Starz, and just renewal petitions since it got on Netflix. But then, Bruce is like, nah, I'm done.
I don't need to be covered in blood anymore.
Yeah.
Now acting wise, it was all fine. Everyone was okay. There was no one that really stood out or took me out of anything. But I do like Kyle Barnes, again, played...
Patrick Fugit.
Yeah, Patrick Fugit played also the kid in Almost Famous, a.k.a. Untitled, which is the version I prefer.
He was also in Spun. Oof.
You see, I don't know if I ever saw Spun, but nonetheless, he was good, and the Preacher, the guy that played the Preacher, was good as well.
Damn right.
But ultimately, everyone just did fine.
Yeah, I felt the acting from his wife was kind of subpar this season.
Okay.
I didn't really care for it too much. Props to both of the daughters of both Kyle and his sister. I thought they both really shined in this, and they were given a lot more to do, and they shouldered the, just additional burden and stuff. I thought they were both great, and Spiner is good in this, but I do feel like he's
relegated to the background.
There's infighting in these demon possessed kind of people, and he's kind of getting forced out a little bit without going into too much of it. And the whole little communion scene with the high council of those possessed people, that was cheesy. There were a few scenes that I felt like were supposed to come off as very serious and sinister with regards to all of these new possessed people. Didn't really hit the way that I was expecting them to. But aside from that, man, I mean, it was still very solid and serviceable, but I don't think there were any of the immense emotional beats like in the previous season, man. Right. There was nothing that hit anywhere near as hard on the performance standpoint.
No, I agree. And as far as, presentation is concerned, it is a very beautifully shot show still.
Lots of interesting lighting with half lighting of a face and then the shadow on the other.
Yeah, they played with shadows a ton in the show, which I dug.
Yeah, totally. It's a very deliberate sort of approach, especially since you've got different directors for each episode, and to still maintain that style and that semblance of identity visually. I guess I thought that was pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, all of it was well shot, and the cinematography was all good, so that wasn't a problem with the show at all. The effects, though, getting into that, I feel like it was lacking this season. I feel like the brutality was missing that was in the first season that really caught your attention, because in order to do an exorcism, you had to beat the crap out of people. Yeah. And eventually he just starts to get so powerful that he doesn't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, that first episode, Adam Wingard, I think, directed that, and that was... I don't even think in the first season they were as brutal as that particular scene. That set such a tone for the show right off the bat, and they've never equaled it, unfortunately, as far as brutality and stuff like that goes. And also the expulsion of the black, like, demonic sludge, steam, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't think it looked quite as good in this season. I felt like there was a different, just sort of texturing to it.
Yeah.
It just didn't look anywhere near as good, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did it a ton less too. So I think they must have had their budget reduced for season 2.
I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately. Yeah. But there were still some surprises, and as far as just overall stuff. I guess we didn't talk music, and music is the one thing. Atticus Ross and his team working on the score once again. It's very he's a member of 9 Inch Nails, and it's very thumping, like just ambient kind of stuff, like like wow kind of things. And I don't know, it's it adds, along with that like half shadowed sort of thing, just a vibe to the proceedings, and I've always liked, even if the writing just didn't do it as much for me in this second season. So
no, I get it. I agree. The music actually was one of the high points as well for me. I mean, it did keep you intensely involved in the scene, even though the characters you might not care that much about.
Or how they were wrote, or the lack thereof.
Yeah, but all in all, it was still a successful product. It just was it spent too much time with people you didn't care as much about, because they were trying to develop this world that would play out through the next few seasons. And so all that development kind of goes for naught, because you don't have long enough with those characters to care. But had they gotten a season 3, I could see how a lot of those characters would, you'd be more okay with them having a bigger, place on the show.
Well, there's a family member that shows up that I really wanted additional backstory and information about, and it happens
looking completely different from the comic again.
Yeah, it happens later in the season, and so I was just like, what? And also that the blondie who was the head there, I can't say that I was the biggest fan of her character.
Yeah.
But, oh well, what are you gonna do? I still like this, and I still wish there could have been a 3rd season.
Yeah, that's fair. So, did you guys, any of you, actually get around to watching the 1st or 2nd season of Outcast? If so, let us know what your thoughts were in the comments down below. If not, are you interested at all in seeking it out? Are you gonna try that 7-day trial? Let us know what your plans are in those comments as well. Until next time, though, thank you very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias to our patrons, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.